Good afternoon. Every time folks see blanks online, they see the ribbon blanks and they automatically assume, wow, that's beautiful. I could never ever create anything like that. What I want to do is throw a video together to show you actually how to create a ribbon blank, and it's really not that hard. This will be part one of probably 2 or 3 part series, but as you can see from my materials that I'm using to do this is very simple paper cup, some micro Pearl-Ex, and I've done quite a few different colors. I've done white, solid white, I've done gold, I've done green, I've done teal. But then, as you can tell, I'm also using clear casting polyester resin. A few assumptions that I'm making with this video so far is that you've cast before, so that you know what's involved in casting. What I've done is I've mixed in a small cup about an ounce of polyester resin. I used 5 or 6 drops of the mech, and I've been stirring it. Now this has been sitting here for probably about 15 minutes or so, just to let it harden up just a little bit. Some other materials you're going to need, at least what I use, is a piece of glass from an old picture frame, some cardboard, and then I line the edges with duct tape. What you'll notice is there is a ridge to it, so when you actually pour it on, it will come up over the edges. So, as I said, this has been probably sitting for about 10 or 15 minutes, and you don't want it to get to a gel state. You want to have it still a little bit liquid format so that it can pour across the glass. So we're just about ready for the pour. So, I'm not too concerned about air bubbles because this is going to be very thin, and all you really do is pour it out onto the glass. And I just spread it across. And as you're doing it, you'll see that it spreads out pretty evenly on its own. What you want to avoid is any gaps. As you see those gaps, just fill them in a little bit. And then what I do, once it's all poured out, I actually want this to be really, really thin, as opposed to a very thick ribbon. So using that same straw that I used to kind of spread things out, I'm going to just spread it out a little bit more. There's no real art to this, or I'm sorry, I should say no real science to it. It's all art. Some other options you can have is you can also just tip it. I actually probably let this sit just a little bit too long because it's starting to gel up on me. But that's okay. So as I kind of spread this out a bit, what you want to now do is just let it sit. And you're going to let it sit for probably about half hour, 30 minutes or so, just for it to set. You don't want it to harden, you still want it to be a little bit rubbery. And what we'll do is we'll come across a little bit later on with a razor knife, slice it into the ribbons, put it into a mold, and then cast around it. So I'm going to try a different technique here. I'm actually going to tip it, see if I can get it to kind of move on its own, give it more of a natural flavor to it. You can actually see it tilting and running down, and that's my objective, to try and get this as thin as possible, because what I'd really like is to get some really thin ribbons, and then when I mix it with the other colors, it will blend together pretty nicely, I think. So that's where we're at so far. Kind of recap for you, I used some polyester resin, some micro pearl, I did 5 or 6 drops, let it sit for probably about 15 or 20 minutes, and then poured it onto a piece of glass. Now we'll come back with a second video, probably about 30 minutes or so, and we'll show you how to cut it all up. Hope this has been helpful so far.